All right, folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
And it's the Tornado Tony Penicow.
And Psychic Tom Paget is, I guess it's past his bedtime, so we couldn't connect with him tonight. Maybe he had other plans. But anyway, we're going to try him in 20 minutes just in case he was taking a nap. We'll find out. If not, we'll get him back on next week. And we do have an email from him that we can read about the big situation. I'm just going to have to lead off with because it's really the biggest news of the week. UFC and WWE combined without even knowing it. It was ridiculous, the Saturday night fight, and for some reason I could not stay awake for even the co-main event. I fell asleep at the worst possible time, worst possible night. So I still have not even seen the entire fight. I had to go by Tom's description, and he said basically Khabib dominated, or Habib, however you want to pronounce it, dominated the entire 4 rounds up until he choked Conor McGregor out, won every round, and still somehow Conor wins in the end. And just like in the Mayweather fight, when I said even if he loses, he wins. Here he loses, and he won, because now he's automatically going to get a rematch. Although they have actually suspended both of them. That came out today. So it was kind of good that we waited to do the show. Both Conor and Khabib have been suspended, and the whole reason, if you haven't heard of why, is there was, after the fight, Khabib jumped the cage and went after a guy named Dylan Dennis, who is Conor's jiu-jitsu coach, and it's not because he choked him out and he wanted to, rub it in his face that he choked him out to the jiu-jitsu coach. It was because this jiu-jitsu coach has been relentlessly, viciously throwing and launching hateful attacks verbally on this kid, just to try to get a psychological edge. And reportedly, Conor even said to Khabib after the 3rd round, "Hey, it was just business." Talking about the hype leading up to the fight, So maybe he was just like trying to say, "Don't kick my ass so bad." I don't know. He was like apologizing in a way, because Conor can do an asshole way like that, I guess. Just say, "Hey man, it was just business." But I thought that was crazy. But when he got out of the cage, that wasn't the only thing that happened. He jumped over the cage, he launched himself at Dylan Dennis, and whether he was provoked or not, obviously that's not a very professional action to take. There's going to be suspensions, there's going to be investigations, there's going to be fines, possibly going to be lawsuits, but there were also some arrests of Khabib's people, and surprisingly Conor's team was very limited in their response, and considering the whole thing with the bus attack and all that, I could not help but sit back and chuckle to myself and say, this traces back to Dana White saying to the general public and all the media at a press conference that he was going to punish Conor McGregor as soon as the legal system took care of him. And what happened? Conor McGregor got a slap on the wrist by the legal system, and Dana White did nothing to punish Conor McGregor for the bus attack. Absolutely nothing. But since all this happened during a fight event in front of the crowd, now you're going to see Khabib have to forfeit a huge portion of his purse. He's going to be fined severely, obviously, through that. And then he's obviously going to have some kind of a suspension here. But let's see what this article says about that. But anyway, before we get to that, this actually has some quotes from Nurmagomedov talking about why he jumped over the cage. Talking about Dylan Dennis, he says, "He talked about my religion, he talked about my country, he talked about my father, he come to Brooklyn and he broke bus." Or maybe he's talking about Conor here. Obviously, he almost killed a couple people. Worry about this shit. Why people talk about I jump over the cage? He says, "This is respect sport. This is not trash talking sport. I want to change this game. I don't want people to talk shit about opponents, talk shit about his father, religion. You cannot talk about Religion Nation. You cannot talk about this stuff. Well, you can talk about this stuff in the United States, unfortunately.
Yes,
for him. But Dylan Dennis, one of his barbs was calling him a effing Muslim rat in the arena, and he has denied that allegation. This was a fan that told TMZ Sports this. TMZ Sports actually had a video of one of the people in the crowd, their vantage point from near the front row of Khabib launching himself out of the cage. So it was pretty intense. Anyway, there was a couple other guys from Khabib's team who were actually arrested. But I heard Conor McGregor's team declined to press charges. And Dana White has said anybody involved will not fight in the UFC again. Except for, Khabib there. He'll still be allowed, I'm sure. But he has come out since and said one of his guys, Zubaira Tukhugov, who is still in the UFC, he says if they fire him, then he'll leave the UFC. So, this is like a big power play here. But anyway, it was beyond the launching himself at Dylan Dennis. What happened while the security was distracted by that was somebody jumped over the cage and started pummeling McGregor in the back of the head. And I believe that was one of the other fighters there that they arrested afterwards. But I would be very surprised if they don't arrest Nurmagomedov, if you think about it, because he assaulted somebody who was not fighting. Either way, if they're going to arrest the other guys for jumping in and assaulting a fighter, I mean, why wouldn't you do it the other way around? I mean, he's not being paid to fight that guy. So even though he's a licensed fighter that night in the arena, they should have treated that like an assault, whether he hit him or not. So I'm not sure why they haven't put a warrant for his arrest. But all around, it's just bad for business. Bad for the brand. Bad for the legacy of the fight. I mean, apparently the fight was excellent. And I doubted Khabib's ability to do it. But I kind of had a feeling I was riding the hype train with McGregor and just kind of going with not wanting to be wrong so bad that I picked him because he just keeps surprising everybody. But, apparently Khabib put on a clinic and actually did even better in the striking than I thought he would. Landed one of the best punches of the fights from what I've read. So, unfortunately, we're going to see a rematch on a fight that probably we shouldn't see one just because of the aftermath.
Right.
And you said it before, this is like, what's the drama in all of his situations. Shame, almost.
Yeah. I mean, so you think of like that so Plata, and how scary that was and everything, and where you think of the fan man incident, which I mean, it wasn't really either the fighter's fault, but that lunatic parachuted into the ring, but those camp made it worse by literally dragging the guy and beating the living shit out of him. I mean, they damn near killed him.
Yeah.
Then you had with even when he fought Buster Matthews Jr., there was controversy. How the time he fought Elijah Tillery, and then Tillery tried to kick him in the nuts. Next thing you know, Rock Newman pulled him over the top rope. It's like, Riddick was, he would have been great for Vince McMahon. He would have been, but so this was the thing that I was involved in, and that's that something. So at least, I mean, the only time he was really, really at fault was the Elijah Tillery thing. They faced each other. He started punching. Tillery tried to kick him. Then Rock Newman gets involved. Pulls over the top rope, but Bo swung again. The thing with Bellotta, it was Bo's, bunch of thugs that caused that whole issue. Once again, same thing with Heyman. It was Bo's, thug entourage that caused most of that. This one here was the fighter. This was the guy jumping out of the cage and just completely, inciting a disaster almost.
Yeah, And it's, the whole white nationalism thing comes into mind too, because you've almost painted a picture of racism, because here's the white guy who's getting all the preferential treatment and being treated like the victim through the whole thing here now. And he's needled this guy psychologically, this whole team, trying to get an edge on this kid. And like, a lot of people aren't going to take that into effect because they're just thinking, oh, this is Conor McGregor, this is the brand, this is their most popular guy, they ought to stand by him because he's a great fighter or whatever, and they don't like Khabib because he's Russian, because he's Muslim, because he's boring fighter, or whatever reason they use, they don't like him. And it's basically looking like they're being racist against him because they're not even giving him the belt. Dana White wouldn't even put the belt around him because of all this crap. But yet, you're telling everybody you're going to punish Conor, and then you don't even punish him. It's like such a double standard with this whole situation. And you've got these tensions between the white fighter Lobov there, who's from Russia, and Khabib, that happened at the hotel before this. Long before this, there was that incident where Khabib slapped him a couple times, and I believe there was some death threats. I mean, I don't speak Russian or anything, but I don't think that video has ever been fully translated as far as what was being said. And there was a big group there, and even Conor said something about people in groups. You shouldn't be afraid of people in groups because they'll cower away when they're all by themselves. So I think it was more than just Khabib saying stuff. It was his whole camp. And that would explain why, there's not just now the rivalry between these two fighters, but their whole entire camps are ready to brawl and go into a melee over this. I mean, this is the kind of tension that they've created, and it's an outside the cage soap opera that you'd think that maybe would sound great in WWE, but it's just so toxic for this situation because somebody could get killed. I mean, I believe there was death threats, and I think that one of these crazy bastards will carry them out. And you think about all the violence in Ireland with the boxing matches that we've seen in the last year or so, people getting killed at boxing events and stuff. So it's not just, I'm not just saying that because Khabib is Muslim, It's this could get serious, and it could go beyond this if they don't nip it in the bud. And as far as what Tom would say, we have it in print, so let's just read that now. He says, it was, to put it mildly, a hit to Conor's brand. He just couldn't keep Khabib off him and had no answer to the takedowns and the GNP, ground and pound. Conor did rally in the third, won it on my card, so I was wrong. I guess he did win one card. One round on one card on Tom's. But his punches just didn't have the devastating effect like they did against Alvarez and Aldo. I see no reason whatsoever for a rematch. If it would have been a close, controversial decision, then yes, let's do it again. But I don't know what would be different the second time around. Now, the question is this: can Conor's ego handle being a perpetual gatekeeper? Because I can't see him beating Khabib in a rematch. And you wouldn't you have loved to be a fly on the wall in Dana's office? It would be challenging to market Khabib to anywhere near Conor's drawing power. But if nobody over here celebrated Khabib's victory, apparently there was quite the hurrah over in Dagestan where he's from. I did see that in the news. So, I don't know. I guess congratulations are in order in some respects, but no matter how pissed off you are, you got to take the high ground in that situation. And there's just so many things would have gone so much better for him if he had just held his temper.
You look at it like this, Rich. What is the best validation when someone's trash talking you? Kicking their ass, right?
Yeah, kicking their ass and then just walking away and being cool about it.
You look at it like this, all right? So, what is everybody talking about right now? They're talking about the post-fight brawl. That's all anybody's talking about. Mm-hmm. If that brawl didn't happen, what would everybody be talking about? How Khabib kicked the living shit out of Conor McGregor. He actually took away from his own victory.
Right.
He took himself. take one like this, like, okay, perfect example, and completely different, but go back to Mike Tyson available when Tyson bit his ear. Tyson was in the process of losing that fight, and it was likely going to end up just like the first fight did. He was likely, going to take another KO loss. I mean, he was already on his heels. He was looking bad. He was taking punches. He'd already been wobbled, So he became desperate. So instead of taking a knockout loss again, he gets the most publicity in the world by biting a chunk of his opponent's ear off. But just say, for example, Holyfield was butting Tyson and he was doing whatever. Tyson was really getting frustrated. Tyson lands a sledgehammer of a left hook and knocks Holyfield out. Okay? He regains the title, and then they go to embrace at the post-fight thing, and then he bites Holyfield's ear off. The same thing is going to happen where, they're going to suspend him, they're going to fine him, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But everybody, instead of talking about this great Mike Tyson comeback victory, they're going to talk about how he bit the guy's ear off. Same with Khabib here. Instead of people talking about his great dominating victory, they're talking about this melee. So he, in this, discredited himself. He took the focus away from his own, career-defining win. Nobody's going to remember that anymore. Years down the road, they're going to remember, oh my God, what do you remember this? I remember the time he jumped out of the cage and attacked his opponent's corner.
Right.
It's stupid, certain things like how you can talk about, like, history, how certain things dominated a certain fight. Jack Dempsey, the long count. Nobody remembers how shitty he looked for 9.5 rounds. How he looked old, lethargic. He looked at that. Everybody talks about that 30-second window of that fight where he was actually in control and he knocked Tony down, and there was a long count. That actually takes away from Tony's victory. But then on the other sense, now look at this. I'm going to give another example. 1938, Joe Louis, one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time. He is fighting Max Schmeling. It was a rematch. Schmeling won the first fight by knockout, and now it's, the U.S. versus the pride of Nazi Germany. Great storyline going in. Joe Louis went on there as a man with a mission, and he went out there, he did the job, he annihilated Schmeling, and then, he has redeemed himself, But imagine if he just knocked Schmeling out and went over and sucker punched the cornerman. Because that also with Schmeling, nobody would talk about Lewis's victory. They would talk about how he disgraced America.
Right. Wow. So, we're going to see what happens here. I don't know if it's going to be a very quick rematch, depending on how their suspensions last. But they will be suspended. And probably talk about next week more of this aftermath. But the fight actually ended by neck crank in the 4th round, 3 minutes and 30 seconds in. And then the co-main event I also missed. That was a TKO corner stoppage. Anthony Pettis' corner stopped the fight at the end of the 2nd round. So Tony Ferguson obviously punished him pretty bad there for the corner to have to step in and call it a day. But that's actually impressive to me because Duke Rufus is, Anthony Pettis is head corner guy there. He's his trainer. And right before he had died at the kickboxing event. And I don't know if he was actually himself in that corner, but that was one of his events. And he got a lot of issues and bad negative feedback from all that. And I think it really taught him to kind of keep a better eye on some of his fighters. So it's good to see that they actually did tell Anthony, hey, that's enough. Sometimes you have to do that. But anyway, Dominic Reyes also got a big win over Oven St. Preux by unanimous decision. Derek the Beast Lewis kept right on rolling with just an amazing comeback win there over Alexander Volkov. He looked like he was, having a hard time in there, and then just unleashed a couple of haymakers, and 4 minutes and 49 seconds into the third round, it was over. Won by knockout. And it's so funny how this guy always looks exhausted, whether he wins or loses. After the fight, he's always exhausted. It's like, it's a big task for him to get in there and do his thing. And yet, there's one famous video of him making fun of Kimbo Slice for being exhausted after a fight. Anyway, Michelle Watterson, the karate hottie, got a big unanimous decision win over Felice Herrig. Really dominated in a lot of the exchanges and kept her distance while was doing a lot of good striking and wrestling. So good on her there. Also, Juicy Da Silva beat Sergio Pettis, so it was a bad night for the Pettis family. The brothers both lose. Unanimous decision for Sergio. Vincent Luque also won over Jalen Turner. It was a first round knockout, 3 minutes and 52 seconds in. Aspen Ladd knocked out Tanya Evinger, 3 minutes and 26 seconds into the first round. Scott Holtzman beat Alan Patrick Silva Alves by elbows from knockout from elbows. 3 minutes and 42 seconds into the third. And then we had another Russian, Yana Kunitskaya, beating Lena Landsberg by unanimous decision. Second fight of the night, Nick Lentz beat Gray Maynard by TKO, a head kick and punches. Got that started. That was 1 minute and 19 seconds into the second. And we had Tony Martin beating Ryan LaFleur by knockout, head kick and punches. That was 1 minute into the third. The first fight of the night. We have Bellator 207 going on right now. It's Paramount Network. Matt Mitrione versus Ryan Bader in the main event. It's part of their little heavyweight tournament they're doing. We also have a couple other heavyweights in the co-main event. Roy Big Country Nelson and Sergey Karatanov. So looking forward to that one. I believe coming up next is Kimbo Slice's kid. Baby Slice, they call him.
Nice.
Kevin Ferguson Jr. He's fighting a guy named Corey Browning, who does not even have a Sherdog picture, but he looks kind of a little bit of like a taller, scrawnier fighter than Ferguson. So I don't know. We'll see. See how this goes. I don't think Ferguson's gonna have trouble with him though. Also on the card, Carrington Banks versus Mandel Nallo, Lorenz Larkin versus Ian Pascu. And we've had a couple of decisions already. We've had some TKOs. And, let's see, Mike Kimbrough knocked out Alex Potts 6 seconds into the fight. The first round.
Wow.
That must have been a good one. I'm sure they'll probably show that eventually. And then tomorrow night, actually October 13th, when is that? That next week?
What was it? October 13th?
Yeah.
It's tomorrow.
Oh, that is tomorrow. Okay. So it's Saturday the 13th. Is over in Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Uniondale, New York. We have the main event for Bellator. Fedor, speaking of Russians, Lee Russian, Emelianenko. He is 37 wins, going with 5 losses, going against Chael Sonnen, who has got 30 wins, 15 losses, and 1 draw. And this is these two fights decide who fights each other here in the main events, the final round. So it could be one of those two guys that go tonight against either Fedor or Chael. So we don't have Tom unfortunately on tonight, but I believe he would pick Chael. I really do. I think Fedor is the more unpredictable, crazier fighter, so anything can happen. I think if he does keep his range and doesn't let Chael wrestle with him too much, I think he could definitely knock him out. Chael doesn't really have much of a tested chin. He hasn't fought anybody really aggressive enough to test his chin in the last few years, so this is a tough one to predict, but I definitely think Chael wants it more. I think Fedor has kind of been dragged out of retirement, so And he's kind of had some ups and downs. I mean, him and Mitrione pretty much knocking each other out in that one fight before all this tournament stuff started. Just keeps coming to mind. And Fedor has never impressed me much. I mean, a lot of people loved him in his prime, but I always thought he just never fought anybody who tested him. That's why he did so well. So I really think Chael Sonnen will probably win by unanimous decision. If not some kind of submission, then he'll get on him eventually because Fedor will get tired. I just don't think Fedor is in the shape that he needs to be for this kind of fight. But in the same breath, I'm going to say that he does have a puncher's chance of getting the knockout. And if he does, it will be very early in the fight, probably in the first minute and a half. If it doesn't happen, then it's going to be Chael's fight. That's my outlook. So I'm going to have an out clause in my prediction. Anyway. Benson Henderson, also on the card, ex-UFC fighter again, along with Chael. He is 25-8, fighting Sayed Awad, who is 23-9. And then we got Czech Congo, one of the most built-up, great shape fighters with the least entertaining style I've ever seen. Let's hope he brings some action to this fight, though. He's 28-10 with 2 draws, and then Timothy Johnson is his opponent, who's 12-4. Then we got Alexander Shlemenko, whose record sounds like an old-school boxer. He's 56-11, fighting Anatoly Tokov, who is 26-2. And I believe we've interviewed this guy before, Henry Corrales, 15-3, fighting Andy Main, who's 12-3 with 1 draw. I think we interviewed Henry when he was undefeated a few years ago.
Remember the name.
Yeah. And then he had some brutal fights to welcome him into Bellator. So it wasn't the most opportune time to get him on, but he was a good interview, from what I remember. Anyway, let's talk about some boxing here. Anthony Mundine is going to be fighting Jeff Horn, and he's saying it's going to be his last fight.
Wow.
Officially. But it's going to be the closeout of his 8 boxing career for Mundine. It'll be a November 30th fight. The ex-world champion Jeff Horn is going to fight him at Suncorp Stadium. And he's basically seems concerned about his legacy and thinks he's misunderstood by the public due to his the man persona. He says, some media misquote me, try to make me the villain, and people say I'm cocky, but I have believed in my ability from day one. He's just 43 years young. I got a couple years to go to catch up. But he says, if the media want me to be the villain, I can be the villain. His record is 48-8 and no draws, so that should tell you something. But he said he'd bow out with ending 30-year-old Horn's career in the catchweight fight at 71 kilograms, whatever that is in pounds, I don't know. Set to draw 30,000 fans, I believe. Horn is just 18-1-1, and he's looking at the fight as a stepping stone toward a rematch against the man who took away his WBO title, Terence Crawford, in June. And by the way, Terence Crawford is fighting this weekend.
Did you see the lightning when Crawford took a swing at him?
I did not see that.
Yeah, I just saw the clip tonight.
Mundine also said about Horn, he's good, works hard, and credit to him, but a lot of it is just hype. I want to expose that hype. This is my opportunity to prove I was the best of the last generation, and I am the best of the next generation. He may bounce back from a loss, but he will need a plan. Better scrub up on the teaching skills. He says, he beat Pacquiao, so I take my hat off to him, but Crawford schooled him. I can guarantee you on November 30th, the Crawford nightmare will continue. Anyway. He adds that this fight is for me to go out on a high. I could go on, but my desire to put in the hard work isn't there anymore. That seems to always be the excuse. Not the excuse, but the revelation that these guys come to when they decide to quit. it's not has nothing to do with their ability to fight anymore. It's just their willingness to put in the work. They just get to the point of, I don't want to do the work anymore. No, don't want to do it. Don't feel like it anymore. And for the lucky ones, it happens before they've done any permanent damage to themselves. But I don't know. A lot of them just get to that point because it's the decision of, is it worth taking more punches to the head and working to do it? Probably not. But anyway, we'll see what happens here. Mundine versus Horn, November 30th. And then also in the boxing world, Billy Joe Saunders failed a doping test back in August, and now he's been denied a license by the Massachusetts State Athletic Commission to face American Demetrius Andrade in Boston this month. So this is kind of an interesting situation because he's blamed a decongestant nasal for this test, fluoxetine. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but the VADA banned this stimulant, and it's obviously prohibited. But it says that it's banned by the VADA, while it is prohibited only during competition by the World Anti-Doping Agency and UK Anti-Doping. So I guess they're saying if the fight had taken place in the UK, he would have been licensed. Anyway, British media reports said that the 29-year-old Saunders could be stripped of the belt he won in 2015 if he fails to get a license for his scheduled title defense on October 20th. He's obviously said that he's done nothing wrong, and it's just a decongestant. Can't get popped with anything nowadays. Don't want to take Sudafed. It's got that ephedrine stuff in it. Anyway. Nate Diaz, no surprise. He's officially off. No, definitely off. I wish I had a recording of Rain Man saying definitely for this one.
Right.
Definitely. This is no surprise to anybody, but this is kind of a surprise that it's actually because of his opponent, Poirier, had to withdraw because of an injury. An undisclosed injury, per multiple sources. He's going to be off this UFC 230 co-main event against Nate Diaz in New York. Actually, Diaz was going to go through with it, surprisingly enough, but Poirier backed out. So, now that Diaz is not fighting in November, Conor McGregor might be free if he's not suspended too long. So maybe we'll see that third fight. Would McGregor do it? That's probably questionable. He'd probably want to go immediately to a rematch with Nurmagomedov because of the animosity and all that. Finish it. But we'll see. I like the idea of the Diaz as a substitute if the suspension is not too long. I'm not exactly sure why they're suspending Conor. I did read a report that said something about him unprovoked punching one of the Khabib's people later on off camera, but I'm not sure. Not sure if that's what they're looking at or why if that's why it is. Anyway, here's a good one, Tony. You're gonna like this one, right? Because you like baseball, right?
Yeah.
Now, have you heard about these guys from Detroit? These guys that are analysts for the Detroit Tigers working for Fox Sports Detroit.
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't. All right. So, they're not coming back. This announcing team will not be back next year for Fox Sports, okay? Because I think there's probably going to be some lawsuits between these two. They did have a productive on-air relationship despite not seeing eye to eye for a long time. But everything came to a real head on September 4th, and these guys actually had a fist fight in the booth during the game.
Wow. That's
This is a true story. Fact is stranger than fiction. Okay, so during the game, these two already had some simmering tensions, and during the game they had a 43-second blackout because, one of the guys, I don't have their full names in front of them, but Mpemba, one of these analysts, reported to have been annoyed by what he thought was Allen's fixation on his phone rather than the game itself. And then he suddenly decided to boycott speaking into the microphone in retaliation. And then before the game, there was an issue over the chairs because one of the guys had a bad back and the other guy took the most comfortable chair. So one of the guys looks at the other, and he's pissed off when he comes in, and he turns his chair over that he's given, and he's looking at the other guy in the most comfortable chair, and the other guy says, "Are you mad that I took this chair?" So anyway, the fight was apparently bad enough that the two had to be booked on separate flights back to Detroit following the September 4th game in Chicago. The Free Press also added that the three NBC Sports Chicago freelancers had to break up the fight, which didn't last very long after Allen placed his hands on the sides of Mpemba's neck. So, these guys had worked more than 2,000 Tigers games together.
Wow.
But apparently a chair ticked one guy off bad enough. And the phone, using his phone again. A chair and the phone. Yeah, I don't know if it was racial, but one guy's white and the other guy's black, so. It's a crazy story. Crazy but true. Anyway, boxing. We got some boxing coming up, and we got some boxing to talk about. From last week, a couple results worth mentioning. Let's see, Carol Relic beating Edward Troyanovsky last Sunday. Also Sunday, Ken Shiro beating Milan Malindo. Sorry, I don't have the weights or the methods here. I'm just looking at BoxRec's main page. Also, Naya Inoue beating Juan Carlos Payano on Sunday. Then Saturday's fights, Jack Catterall beating O'Hara Davies. Daniel Roman beating Gavin McDonnell. Wisaxo Wangek beating Iran Diaz. And this one is pretty surprising. Jesse Vargas and Thomas Dulorme fighting to a draw.
I heard some people call Dulorme won.
Yeah, from all accounts, I guess it was pretty much a slugfest and a toe-to-toe war for a lot of it. But sometimes that's tough to judge who gets the better shots in when that happens. Artur Beterbiev beat up on Callum Johnson as well on Saturday. And I believe that one was a knockout. What was that, Tony?
He's one of Iceman Scully's boys, ain't he?
Beterbiev or Johnson?
Beterbiev.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think he is.
Callum Johnson, 17-1 now. That was his first loss. His O had to go, and it was a knockout. So, let's see. Then we also had Jessica McCaskill beating Erica Annabella Farias last Saturday. Luis Neary beating Jason Canoy. Thomas Rojas beat Johnny Gonzalez. Jonathan Aquendo beat Jose Lopez. Nicola Adams beat Isabel Milan. And Thomas Adamek did not do so well. Big baby Jarrell Miller destroyed him over the weekend, and pretty much wiped the floor with him. The referee had to step in and call it off. But Adamek looked pretty pathetic.
117 pounds for that fight.
Yeah, it was bad. Bad look for Thomas. I don't know if he just needed the money or he thought he really could do it, but maybe that cements his retirement permanently.
Yeah.
And then another fight we're talking about, Sam Bowen beating Horacio Alfredo Cabral. And let's go to Saturday the 13th, tomorrow night. We've got a female fight in Argentina. That's a pretty big deal here. Jessica Yolanda Bopp at light flyweight. She is 34-1. And Sandra Robles is her opponent, who is 21-2. And this is for the WBA World Female Light Flyweight title. And I wonder if the Peterson brother, who yells "Bop" all the time, is trying to call her out to her. Bop every punch. You know that guy?
No.
Yeah, one of the.
Oh wait. Yeah, I do. I know, because he does that when he throws every punch. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I forget. Anthony Lamont.
Bop. Talking to Jessica. Anyway, we got some fights worth mentioning down under in South Wales, Australia. Mismatch of the week all the way here. We've got Joshua English in the main event, bantamweight. He's just 1-0. Fighting Bruno Vivoli. He is 21-2-1. That is a hard name to pronounce. Vifuavili. Definitely butchering it, but my best pronunciation is Vivoli. Anyway, also down in Australia, in Queensland on Saturday, Liam Paro in the main event. He is undefeated, 14-0. Fighting Robert Talatic, who is 22-1. Alright. And up in Quebec, we got a couple fights. One for a title, IBF North American Super Lightweight title. Mathieu Germain, who is 15-0 at super lightweight, fighting Carlos Jimenez, 14-8-1. Then we got co-main event Eric Bazinian, who is undefeated, 20-0, fighting Francie Ntetu, who is 17-2. That one's for the vacant WBA NABA super middleweight title and the WBO NABO super middleweight title. Gislan Maduma, 19-3 at welterweight, fighting Diego Gonzalo Luque, who is 21-6-1. Maduma 19-3. Yeah, that's really. Oh, Jesus Laguna. I guess this could be our Jesus fight of the week. Jesus Laguna. He is 22-12-3, fighting Ablaikhan Kusainov at lightweight, who is 8-0. So Jesus might need a miracle to avoid his 13th loss on Saturday the 13th. Main event in Hessen, Germany. We got Mario Jasmin, 15-0 at middleweight, fighting Pata Varduashvili, who is 34-16-2 for the German international middleweight title. It's a guy whose record is 11 wins and 50 losses on the card as well. Another guy who's 8-29. That's how they do it in overseas there, I guess. There's one in Mexico. Eduardo Hernandez, undefeated, 26-0. Fighting Luis Diaz Pesana, 23-3-1 for the WBC Youth World Super Featherweight title. You gotta love it when somebody's fighting for the World Youth title, and they should be fighting for the World title. 26-0, that's a pretty good record.
Well, I don't know what he started fighting when he was an embryo.
I guess so. I don't know how old these guys are. Anyway, co-main event, the only other fight on the card, Lourdes Juarez, 24-2, fighting Gabriela Sanchez Saavedra, who is 3-1. 24-2 versus 3-1.
We got a former guest fighting this weekend over in Russia.
We do.
Yeah.
Which one?
Joey DeWaco out of Philadelphia, a friend of mine. Yeah, he flew over there a couple days ago. He had the weigh-in today.
In Russia? In Kattenberg, Russia?
I'm not sure where in Russia. It was funny.
Oh, yeah, here he is. Yeah. Ekaterinburg, Russia. If you have Russia Match TV, you can watch them. Here's the card. Zolani Tete. He is 27-3 at bantamweight. He's the main event against Mikhail Aloyan, who is 4-0. Obviously, looking for his first loss here. He's fighting for the WBO World Bantamweight title there. And then the co-main event is cruiserweights. Undefeated. Somebody's always got to go. This is the fight of the week here. Andrew Tabiti, 16-0, fighting Ruslan Fafer, who is 23-0.
I've seen Tabiti fight a couple times. He's a good fighter.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know
lots of good stuff.
Tabiti.
Lots of good stuff on that. I believe this is going to be on Showbox or Showtime. I think they're going to televise this one. I don't know about the main event. But Vladimir Shishkin also on the card. He's 7-0, fighting Najib Mohammedi, who has got 40 wins and 6 losses. This is for the WBA Continental Super Middleweight title. And then we've got Yuri Kashinsky. He's 16-0, fighting Juan Ezequiel Basualdo, who's 11-1-1. That is at cruiserweight as well. Andrei Fedosov at heavyweight, 30-3, fighting Joey DeWeco, who's 19-5-4. So obviously Joey is going in there needing a knockout to win, right?
Yeah,
no matter what.
Funny. Joey posted that he had arrived there. He said, hey, arrived safe, and just, it's not like the scene from Rocky IV where it's been really nice and all that. No one would say don't look like you're not helping people help the horses that have gotten stuck in the snow and stuff. You're not throwing big rocks out the window.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so much diverse country in Russia. It might be actually a warm climate. Who knows? And I don't know what their seasons are like either. But anyway, he's fighting a Russian in Russian territory, so it's going to be a tough one to come out with a win unless he gets knocked out. We've got another somebody's always got to go fight too in the middle of this one. Magomed Kurbanov versus Juan Rodriguez, both 15-0 at super welterweight. And then gonna be definitely wishing Joey good luck on that one, but sometimes just takes a well-placed punch.
Yeah, absolutely. With a puncher like him, absolutely.
Yep. One shot, one kill. Alright, over in the UK, the big fight is Glenn Foote. He is 23-3 at super lightweight, fighting Robbie Davies Jr., who is 16-1. Stands for the vacant BBB of C British super lightweight title and the Commonwealth British Empire super lightweight title. And then also lightweights, Lewis Ritson, undefeated at 17-0, fighting Francesco Patera, who's 19-3, for the vacant EBU lightweight title. Light heavyweights, Joshua Buatsi, who is 7-0, fighting Tony Averland, who is 26-10-2 for the WBA International light heavyweight title. And that's pretty much it for the good stuff on that card. So we've got Thomas Patrick Ward, undefeated at 24-0, fighting Tom Tran, who's 6-1. Right in the middle of everything. Seems kind of like a mismatch. Who knows? Over in Salinas, California, the main event is Ruben Villa, 13-0, versus Miguel Carrizosa, who is 10-3. No title on the line there, but it's a big one. Chauncey Welliver fighting in the main event at heavyweight in Worley, Idaho this weekend. The matchmaker, Sarah Welliver. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's fighting Eric Hempstead, who's 7-0. Chauncey is 56-12-5. Yikes. And then the ever dangerous TBA is in action in Indiana against Derek Findlay, who's 28-24-1. The main event. Yikes. Some of these fight cards are crazy. And of course, we can't neglect to talk about probably the biggest fight of the week. Terrence Crawford versus Jose Benavidez Jr. It's going to be an ESPN fight here tomorrow night. Top ranked Bob Arum. And Crawford, of course, undefeated, 33-0. A lot of people believe he is the world's pound-for-pound best fighter right now. Jose Benavidez Jr. is 27-0. I don't really know much about him. I might have seen him fight. I really haven't been following boxing enough to keep track of some of these guys. But this is just for one title, the WBO World Welterweight title, and Crawford really should have more of them by now. But he just hasn't put the fights together yet to get him. Anyway, Shakur Stevenson in the co-main event at featherweight. He is 8-0, fighting Viorel Simeon, who's 21-2. That's for the vacant WBC Continental America's featherweight title. And then we got super welterweights. Carlos Adams, 14-0, fighting Joshua Conley, who's 14-2-1. And another one worth mentioning, Mike Alvarado at welterweight. He's 39-4, fighting Robbie Cannon, who's 16-13-3. So, what do you think about this one, Tony? You know about this Benavidez Jr. guy?
Benavidez fight. I mean, he's tough. He's talented. I mean, got a decent punch. But here's the problem: he is fighting. I mean, and he's got a puncher's chance. You know, absolutely. But here's the issue: he is fighting one of the best fighters, if not the number one boxer in the world today, in Terrence Crawford. And I think what you're going to get is a good fight. I know there's been a little bit of pre-fight trash talk at the end. Benavidez shoved him, and Crawford even took a swing at him. So there's definitely bad blood going into this. I just see in this fight Crawford being the better fighter, and I think it'll go the distance. I think it'll be a decision, but Crawford's going to win 9 or 10 of 12 rounds.
Well, he's punched it into his computer, folks, and we have the results. Crawford by landslide.
Yeah.
All right. So, have I missed anything?
I don't think so.
Do we neglect to mention anything?
I
guess not. Do we miss any wrestling news? I want to say that we missed something in wrestling that happened this week.
Well, aside from Shawn Michaels making his comeback after 8 years.
Let's see. What's this? Breaking. Chris Jericho's Caribbean Cruise. Oh, Fight TV. We don't need to know that. Alright, well, I guess until next week, that's all she wrote for us. Just check on Sherdog real quick, see what's coming up next in the UFC. I know it's Bellator weekend. Obviously, let's see, UFC Fight Night 138. It's not happening until October 27th. So we got a little break from UFC for a while. And till next week, I guess that's all she wrote. And we'll be talking about the Bellator winners there and the heavyweight Grand Prix tournament. And whatever happens with these big boxing matches and Terrence Crawford can pull it off, of course, won't be much to talk about, won't be much controversy, but if Jose Benavidez can stay undefeated, we'll be saying he's maybe the best. We'll see. But thanks for doing it solo tonight with me there, Tony.
Absolutely. Well, I'm the one who caused the postponement, So.
Sorry. It was worth it.
Maybe.
I wouldn't have won my $25 if it wasn't for not having the show. I was at $400 for 5 seconds. I was in 5th place. I was like, wow, this could be good for me. And then, poor Eli couldn't even get a single touchdown pass.
Yeah, Eli got pummeled.
Horrible. Some of the memes were funny to look at, though.
I love. They're like, he shows I'm like on the sideline making stupid faces. He's like, Mommy, the Eagles are beating up me again. Beating up on me again.
Yeah, it was bad. Not even Odell Beckham could save him.
Oh yeah, he's terrible. I'm not a big fan of him as it is.
And I wasn't even tempted to pick him for my FanDuel team. So I was really proud of myself for not falling for that high priced bait. Anyway, all right, we'll catch up with you next week and go Eagles for now until they face the Patriots.
If it's not in the Super Bowl, we'll be for another about 2 or 3 years, so we're kind of safe.
All right.
I'll talk to them.
Adios, amigo.